Welcome back. We are here with another episode of the Brujajas Podcast. This is Kendall.
And this is Carolina.
Hey, guys.
How's y'all's retrograde going?
Oh, we're in another retrograde, are we? Oh, my God.
How's your week going?
It's good. I didn't realize we were in another retrograde, but I guess that makes sense.
Does it? Yeah.
But no, this week's been good. Just same life stuff, busy stuff. We're starting to see business in the salon picking up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really happy about that. And yeah, the baby's good. I'm good. G's good.
Aw.
Ahí andamos de la greña, pero ahí andamos.
Hanging on. I'm glad y'all are
How are you?
good.
How's your week?
Damn, this retrograde. I mean, what can I say?
You're feeling it? Ooh, tell us about it.
I'm feeling it, girl. I'm feeling it. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. And for those of you who don't remember what the retrograde is or haven't heard about it, it's essentially the belief that the planets kind of appear to be moving backwards, but they're not really moving backwards.
Right.
So essentially it kind of brings out or makes you more aware of certain aspects about yourself, certain things. You kind of have a period of retrospect and like self-reflection, I feel. Now, this retrograde that we're in, it started January 30th, I believe, and it's going until February 21st. And then we're going to have another one later in this year in May 29th to the June 22nd.
Ooh, that's right around my birthday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, June 22nd is Abel's birthday. And then yours is right after that, right?
Right before.
Right before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So this retrograde for me already kicked off with intensity. They say that during the retrograde period, you can experience like electronic issues.
Right.
And I've definitely been dealing with that. My washer and my dryer specifically, I don't know what the hell's going on with it. Like, it literally would not turn on. Like, it was plugged in. It was working. The light was turning on. Pero le movía, I would turn the knobs to, like, make it, like, turn on.
Yeah.
Y no prendía. And then it would act like it was going to turn on. And then it would turn off. Like, it was just being weird.
Yeah.
And so, finally, I waited until Abel got home earlier this week. And, he fixed it, of course, with his man hands. But he was like, you just got to give it a little love. And I'm like, honey, I ain't got time for love for this washing machine.
I need this machine to wash these clothes.
Don't you know I'm busy, got other things to do. Pero he figured it out. So, I don't know, it was just weird. So I was like, this fucking retrograde. Like,
dang, that makes so much sense then because, okay, so this morning I go to the bank to deposit, right? And I get to the bank and I go to make my little deposit or whatever. And the ATM was like, we can't do this transaction for you at this time. Oh my
God, I hate
So I'm like,
that.
really? I'm like, all right, cool. So I park, I get off, I go to the teller. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to make this deposit. It doesn't work.
Right.
She's like, oh, I don't know. It had a jam earlier, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. So I'm there and she's doing the deposit and I'm going through my phone and my phone starts telling me that I don't have any cell service. Like, to click my cell service on.
And it's like you're paying for the most expensive thing for it to work.
Right. And so then I go and I look and so I thought, okay, well, maybe I click that little green button that turns off the cell service.
The roaming.
It's on. So I'm like, so it won't let me do the Wi-Fi and it won't let me do cell service. I don't have any internet service. So I'm at the bank and I'm like, my phone's not working.
Why
is
useless.
it not working? So, okay. And then yesterday, the truck, the fob, like I couldn't lock the truck. And then when I did lock it, it couldn't unlock it.
Oh, shoot.
So, okay, now I understand. That's all Mercury retrograde-y stuff, right? Because Mercury is all about technology, communication, having issues, like you said, like little issues with little gadgets, things like that. So, all right, that makes sense.
It's part of it. It's believed that it has to do with the energetic frequencies that are given off through the placements. By
certain planets, yeah.
To the placements of the planets. But, so yeah, that's how it's been. But other than that, it's been good, just trying to survive as always.
Yeah.
But
your washer started working.
Yes, kind of. Like I'm telling you, I don't know. Abel has the magic touch, I guess, because he makes it work. So I guess.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. Thank God for that.
Yep. So this episode is a continuation of the last episode. So this is part 2 of the Tarot, Oracle, Pendulum,
Cartomancy,
aka Divination episode, whatever you guys want to call it. You guys really liked the last episode. We got a lot of positive feedback from it. I did post up a couple of visual aids that would help. So if you listen to the podcast, to the episode before I put those up, go back and take a look, maybe re-listen to the episode, and it'll help to make better sense of what we were talking about. And in this particular episode, we're going to talk about oracle cards. And that's really Carolina's area of expertise. She's all about the oracle deck. And so she's going to talk to us and explain to us a little bit about how to use them, the difference, again, between the oracle and a tarot. And she actually did a spread for us right before this episode, for the episode. So she's going to explain that to us, and we'll post the visual aid of the oracle spread that she did. And so, yeah, it was really interesting, and I cannot wait to hear it. But first, Carolina, tell me, how did you pick your first oracle deck?
Oh, so I honestly just went with my intuition 100%. This was about 3 years ago. I was really into indigenous cultures at the time, indigenous traditions, the history, but also the spiritual side of things, such as like sacred medicines, the energies. And I knew that my first oracle deck had to be in relation to something, along those lines. Like I knew it had to resonate with me, right? So I visited many of like the metaphysical shops around here, and they're great, but I just never found anything that kind of touched me the way that you kind of felt whenever you found your deck, right? Where it was that gut instinct of like, okay, this is the one, right? And I searched and searched. Entonces, I finally was like, oh, maybe I should try online. And I did. And then I found it. And I knew it was the one. I was like, oh, this is perfect. It's resonating with me. The pictures resonated with me. The whole vibe of the deck really resonated with me. And I don't know, I ordered it real quick and I started using it. And it was just amazing. Lots of validation, lots of, messages, everything that it was just, like, I would do the readings and I'd be like, holy shit. Like, I just felt like it was hilarious to get the messages that I was getting, because it was like, okay, funny spirit, like you're really coming through strongly for me.
So you understood the attitude of the oracle deck. Like you understood to the point where it was even humorous to you.
It's so funny. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah. It was just hilarious seeing everything kind of put together. And which deck did you go with? So it's called the Shamanic Medicine Oracle Cards, and this is by Barbara, and I'm not going to butcher the last name, so I'm sorry. I'm not going to say it right. And then Flavia is also somebody who helped with this making of the deck. It's really, really beautiful, you guys. I'll post some pictures of the reading that we did, but it was just perfect. I don't know. I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we did a reading for the episode before we got started. Kendall actually pulled some tarot card readings, right? And that was amazing because it was perfect validation, right, for the last episode, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually wanted to see if the messages would be similar if we use different decks, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, we did like a little experiment this morning where we asked spirit and asked our ancestors and our spirit guides to help us. And we asked specifically for a message in relation to this particular episode. Mm-hmm. And so I did a 3-card tarot spread, which I'll post as well. And then we compared that message with my oracle deck and her oracle deck, mm-hmm. and we pretty much got the same message, using 3 different decks. Mm-hmm. And so that was
amazing.
We were both just like laughing and just like, it's I couldn't
funny
believe it.
We already know at this point.
Because we've never done that, right?
Well, we haven't done that together, but I've used the decks in a way where they kind of play off of each other and validate each other. And it's just so funny seeing that, because you're like, okay, well, I'm not crazy. You know, this is not just in my head. This is a clear message. And it's like, what are the odds out of 52 cards or 78 cards or however many cards that these are the specific messages that came out after shuffling them a billion times? Correct. You know, it's like, so what are the odds?
It takes away that coincidence factor, right? Like, mm-hmm. this can't be coincidental because, okay, maybe one card, maybe
could
one
be.
Spread,
mm-hmm.
but we did 3 spreads.
And it was about the same.
Yeah. So even just using statistically, the chances of getting the same cards that have the same message in 3 different decks is like astronomical, right? So
it's very rare.
So it eliminates coincidence, and then this is when we start to talk about synchronicities, which we did cover in a previous episode. But for those of you guys that don't know, synchronicities are things that happen that are above coincidental, where you look at it and you're like, okay, that's too much to be a coincidence.
Right.
And at the same time, because of that, it makes you question your what you know to be real or our reality, right? Because then you're like, okay, if that's too much to be a coincidence, then what is this, right? And it makes you think, okay, there has to be something else outside of what I know my reality to be, for this to have happened the way it happened, right? So those are synchronicities.
Yes.
So very much, that's what we got today.
It was
synchronicity.
Crazy validation. And oh my God, of course, when I look at my phone right now, it's 12:12.
Yeah, hey.
I was about to look at the picture of the cards that I pulled out. So yeah, it was the first card that came out was the 4-legged. And in this card, you can see some animals depicted. This card is associated with endurance and essentially calling for your spirit animals that resonate with you and asking them to fill you up with good energies to help you overcome any obstacles that you're dealing with. If you're kind of at a limbo or a place in your life where you're not like really sure what road to take, you're kind of feeling drained or anything like that, this is your spirit animals calling forth and telling you, hey, we're here, call upon us, we've got you. And then we had the soul retrieval card, and this is associated with reclamation. So really stepping into your power, really acknowledging your gifts, focusing on one thing. And then lastly, we had the buried in earth card. And in this card, this kind of reminded me of the Wheel of Fortune card because it's like a whole circle, and it just made me think of like the cycle of life.
Correct.
You know? So yeah, I feel like it connected.
Which is great. It's crazy because when I did the 3-card tarot spread, the Wheel of Fortune came out.
Yes.
We got the 7 of Cups and we got the 10 of Cups.
Right.
And so all those cards, it basically say exactly what the Oracle deck that you came out spread. Like we can tie a tarot to each one of the cards that came out in the Oracle spread. Yeah. So that was mind-blowing.
Yes.
So then for extra shits and giggles, like they say, I said, well, let me pull out my Oracle deck and see what comes out.
Oh, and that was amazing. And I love it. Tell us about that. The same thing.
So I have a different Oracle deck, and mine is called the White Light Oracle by 𝚂𝚑𝚊𝚛𝚎, which is a really popular author of these type of decks. And this is the one that I told you guys last episode where when I went to go pick it, the guy bumped it and I felt it in my solar plexus, right?
Wow.
So that's what made me pick this card, even though I went in with the intention of buying a tarot cards, not Oracle cards. And so I love it because the illustrations in this card are just so beautiful, and I'll post pictures of it too. And that kind of really grabbed my attention, caught me like where I was like, man, if I had ever drawn or illustrated a deck, this is probably what it would look like. So it resonated with me a lot. And the 3 cards that I pulled also can be very much tied to the 3 cards that you pulled.
Yes,
so
100%.
Very synchronistic, is the word?
I don't know, but that's a perfect way to describe it. I love that we tried that this morning, tried things a little bit different and found some validation. So that was really awesome to see. So in the last episode, we've discussed the differences a little bit between Oracle and Tarot decks, of course. And I'm going to remind you guys, for those of you that listened to our last episode, what the differences are. In the simplest terms, Oracles are more earnest, but not like serious, where Tarot is more cutthroat and much savage. Right. In the last episode, again, we did explain that the Oracle doesn't really follow as much as it's structured or has more standards as in comparison to like tarot, which is a lot more defined. You have a lot more rules. You have a lot more things that you kind of have to follow. The Oracle is a lot more free, and it gives you space for more creative or intuitive freedom, right? And of course, there are many different ways of doing a reading. Everybody has a different method. The way that I like to do Oracle's readings is I always incorporate it with my tarot card deck or with my runic stones. And I start off always by grounding and protecting.
Correct, which is what we did first thing we did today before we did any of this.
Yeah, before we record even, we do all of that. And we do have an episode on that, so check that out. And so yeah, we start off by grounding and protecting. Usually if I am in my home, I will light an incense to kind of like help bring in positive energy into the space. You can even smudge the area with your herb of preference. And then I kind of sit down and start to channel, allowing messages to come through. And then I either start with my tarot or my oracle deck and start pulling out cards. And I don't really have like a spread that I follow. I kind of just go based off of intuition. At first, I start off with the 3-card spread. And then if I feel the need to call
for more clarity,
right? Like I pull more cards. And it just really depends on the client, the person I'm reading for, if I'm reading for myself. It all depends on that. And then, yeah, I just start interpreting the cards. And if you are using an oracle deck that resonates with you, it'll be much easier for you to interpret the reading. I think because you kind of understand the message a lot more, I don't know, more transparent, I guess. Like, I know, Kendall, maybe you might agree, like, if you try to do a reading with my deck, you might not understand depictions as much, and they might not resonate with you as much, so you might struggle with it. But if you do it with yours, you're like off the bat, like, oh, I know what this means, right? Like,
exactly. And I think that's why it's so important for when you go to pick an oracle deck or to have, like, that's why you're supposed to have that moment where it's like,
exactly,
this is the one for me, because it is it's a tool to help you use your intuition and your knowledge and what you already know to then deliver messages for other people. So you definitely have to have a connection with the cards. And for example, like in tarot, when you first start training to learn how to read tarot, there's a lot of exercises that you have to do to kind of connect with the cards.
Right.
And so you take each card and there's certain meditations that you can do to help open yourself up. And as a matter of fact, that brings me to a good point. So as you all know, I am a Gaia subscriber.
Love it.
Love the network.
Gaia.
There is a show on Gaia that is currently doing a season on tarot.
Oh,
and so
nice.
Each episode is a very profound and detailed on each card, especially when we're talking about the major arcana.
That's
so like
cool.
The Fool, the Hierophant, in the Wheel of Fortune, the Tower, the Death, the Devil, all those cards. Each episode has, she goes into great detail and depth. And now this lady is not just like some lady. Like this lady has scientific degrees. She's a doctor. She's very much what we would call a worldly scientist, right? But she has metaphysical beliefs, and she believes in the Cabal, the Hermeticism, all that stuff. And she teaches how each card relates to those ancient type of religions or teachings or understanding. And it's super interesting.
That sounds like my cup
But
of
it
tea.
is very detailed. Like when I first started watching the episodes, I would fall asleep. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's too much.
Like it was too much. Like for me, my brain would just be like, out.
Knock out.
And the first couple times I'm like, why do I keep falling asleep? Because I find the information very interesting.
Yeah.
But she gives so much, it does become overwhelming.
Okay.
And so I almost felt like my brain was like, we're gonna take what we need and the rest we're gonna shut it out.
Yes.
Right? But then as I continued to watching, it kind of went away because then I started understood the different terminologies because I know the existence of like Hermeticism, you know, the Tree of Life, all that stuff, but I'm not super into it. I don't know very detailed about it. So it's almost like my brain is like blocked because we don't understand
Doesn't click
right?
yet. Yeah.
But then as I started watching more episodes and listening to her, I started to be able to understand more. And now it's super interesting to me and I can watch it. At the end, so every episode has the episode of the card, and then it has like a part 2 to each episode.
Oh, okay.
And that is a meditation that you can do for each specific card to connect, right? And so I'm sure that in oracle decks and oracle cards, you need to also have that connection to the deck to be able to interpret it correctly, because a lot of it is derived from your intuition.
Exactly.
Because you're not just going based on what the card is telling you.
No.
You're going based on what the card is saying, also what you're picking up from the person in relation to the card, in relation to the reading, to the description, because we always tell our clients, right? Well, don't tell me too much. The less I know, the better.
The better,
If things resonate or validate, you can validate and you can say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that helps us.
Right.
Because now we know that this particular thing that we're feeling is for a purpose. It's for a reason. You don't have to tell me anything, but just even saying, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Now we know we're on a right path. And then we know to explore that particular feeling, emotion, whatever you want to call it. And then the message just become clear.
Right.
So absolutely, way important to be. Yeah, and I feel like the deck that you pick is definitely not a deck that I would have picked.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Yeah, no,
resonate
it's not
with me,
your vibe.
But I can see how it absolutely resonates with you. That's
it
so
does. It does. It's really accurate, and like I said earlier, I really enjoy using it in addition to my tarot card reading because I always see a clear pattern. It helps me kind of validate again, all of the messages that are coming through for the specific purpose. It always cracks me up because, like, for example, I'll be doing a tarot card reading and then cards will come out that are depicting water signs. Okay, let's just put it that way. I'll pull out some oracle cards and it's nothing but water cards. Right. And it's like water, like a fountain or the ocean or whatever that has to do with water. So it's like, okay, what are the odds? Again, what are the odds that these two things would come together in this moment, right? So I always like incorporating the two together, but I definitely feel more of a connection with the oracle deck as of right now, right? So yeah,
because it's the same way where I feel very connected to the tarot deck because I like that. And it has to just to do with me, my personality. Like, I'm a very direct person.
Absolutely.
I always tell my friends, don't ask me. Don't ask me unless you really want to know what I have to say.
Because I'm going to tell you the truth,
because I'm going to tell you what it is. And you might not like what I have to say.
That's
so
right.
If you want me to tell you what you want to hear, I'm not the person. Don't even ask me.
That's right.
And my friends know that that's very much my personality. And so that's why I feel like I, gravitate towards tarot more because tarot is very real in that way.
That's
where
so
it's
true.
Like, you're not gonna like this, but this is what it means.
Then
here's a solution to help with this particular negative aspect of life. Because it's not the tarot being negative. It's like, it's life. There's negativity in life. Everything is not always positive, right? You have to be able to know how to navigate through the negative aspects of life too. Right. And tarot helps with that. And I feel like Oracle does too, but it does it in a more subtle way.
That's right.
Right? Where it does it more in a, we're going to hold you and just give you lots of love and
light.
That's
so true.
This is the negative thing, but don't worry.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
More of the positive or softer approach to it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, exactly. And again, like, when you use both of them, the harshness, the savageness of the tarot, and then the softness and the humbleness of the oracle together.
The humbleness, yes.
Right? You have more of that yin-yang type of reading. And it balances itself completely. Like, it really, I don't know, it's coherent,
Right.
Yeah.
That actually makes great sense. And now that you said that, it makes me want to incorporate both decks in every reading.
You need to do it. Even if you only pull one card. Yeah. If you say, this spirit, can you please give me one card for this person that this person needs to absolutely hear in this reading? Pull one card out, and I bet you it's going to be the card that they needed or the card that you needed.
We should do a live like that.
Oh, we need to.
For our listeners. So we'll do a live, and we'll pull one card for each listener, and then we'll give whatever message that needs. And I think that would be so cool. What do you guys think? You guys want us to do a live where we pull cards for you? Let us know in the comments of this episode whenever we post, and then we'll put a date and time together. Probably, I think we should do like a Friday night or,
that works.
A Saturday night, something where people aren't at work and they can listen and tune in. And
that'd be so freaking cool.
We should do it. Yay. I'm excited.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love that. And then we can kind of like connect with everybody.
Yeah.
Answer questions. Oh, yes. That sounds fun.
Alrighty. So, yeah.
Now we can talk a little bit more about pendulums. And to begin, I don't own any pendulums, but you just got some. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I have one that I bought a long time ago.
Okay.
And it's this thing of like, you have to put your energy into, so usually when you go to a metaphysical shop, they'll have pendulums kind of hanging on some type of display, right? And then what they tell you to do is put your hand underneath the pendulums, and when you feel some type of transfer of energy, stop, and that's the pendulum for you. Because it has a lot to do with the energy you give off to how accurate that pendulum is going to be for you.
Right.
So, but then again, you can be gifted pendulums too. So it's, it's kind of up in the air. Right. So I bought one, and then for Christmas, my brother bought me 2.
Oh, how sweet.
And he bought me a book on the history of magic and witches and spells and things like that. And I pretty much read it. It's like a thick textbook. It's big, like a textbook. Yeah. And I wondered if it was a textbook, like maybe it was used in some sort of class about religion or something, because it was very textbookish to me. But basically, it was just like witchcraft, spells, and magic through history, right?
That's awesome.
And it really resonated with me, and I was just like, wow. And I remember I was reading it, and then there's just one specific passage where it talks about the Bible and this type of stuff, right? And it quoted, and I can never say this book in the Bible, but it's in the Old Testament, Deuteronomy.
Oh, I have no idea.
I can never say that. If you're religious, sorry. But it's basically the part of the Bible where they denounce all this, like you shall not seek, divination. You shall not seek like the dead. You cannot, like all psychics or any people that you can't seek any of this stuff out. And the way, because it takes you through the history, right? So the way the book kind of got you to biblical times, it was this thing where it's like what was written, especially in the Old Testament, what's written is pretty much written as law, right? At that time. That's what the Bible kind of was. Like these are our rules for our humanity, for our society, for our cultures. And what I found really interesting and kind of stopped me dead in my tracks is reading that passage, it made me feel like by saying that, by even putting that in legal form, it gives validation to the reality of these type of practices, that these type of practices were real. They existed. They were something that they were concerned about. They were something that it's like, okay, we're so concerned about this, we have to write it into our law.
Exactly.
And so if magic doesn't really exist, it's not real, it's fake, it's fictional, it's fantasy.
It's on your head.
If psychicness or clairvoyance is not real, it's fake, or necromancy or whatever all these practices are, like the fact that you're taking the time to even write about it validates the reality of it. If it really was fake, like especially the way we understand it now, right? So when we talk about magic, people are like, okay, magic doesn't exist. It's not real. Okay. So why even
go through all the trouble to do that?
By publicly going against it, you're validating its existence. You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
And so that really blew my mind, and I had to close the book and I had to think about that for a whole day.
Oh, man.
And I just thought about all what it means, what it's saying without saying, right? So I found that really interesting.
I love that. So have you used the pendulum since your brother gifted them to you?
So I cleared them with selenite, right?
Okay,
so that's the thing. So a pendulum is one of those things that kind of crosses 2 genres. So it is a divination tool, but it is made out of crystal or some type of rock material or gem, mineral, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of crosses both wheelhouses. So as such, when you first get a pendulum, you have to clear it of any negative energy, because you don't know who's handled it, you don't know who's touched it, you don't know who's put their intention or intuition in it. And you always want to think, okay, positivity, but there are negative people, and maybe someone that handled it put some negative intention, or you never know.
The case,
so the first thing you want to do with any kind of crystal is you want to clear it of any kind of negative energy. And you can do this in two or three ways. Number one, you can sage it. Same thing with setting your intention, saging it with smoke, saying, I clear any negative energy, and negativity may not be housed in this pendulum. This pendulum is supposed to be used for the greater good, for all mankind, for white light purposes, or whatever it is your intention is, right? Or you can also lay it next to or on top of a piece of selenite. And selenite is very clearing and clears out negativity, especially when it comes to crystals. Another way is you can wait for a full moon. And then you put it outside in the full moon, and the vibration of the full moon will also clear and cleanse your pendulum or your crystals. We'll have an episode on crystals next, guys. I promise.
It's coming. It's coming.
I bought a bunch of crystals this week, and we're trying to get familiar with all the different types, because there's so many different types, and we're trying to get all of our information, P's and Q's together when it comes to that, because we want to bring you a super informative episode on crystals. Yes, so that's coming.
I'm excited. So yeah, once you've cleansed
you've cleansed and cleared the crystal, then you have to like I said last episode, like season the pendulum
I
to
love
you,
that.
right? Or connect with the pendulum with your
vibe
energy
with
to
it.
say, okay, I am the one that's going to be using you
Okay.
for divination purposes. So let's have a connection. And you do that in a couple of ways. One, I see that people say after you've cleared your pendulum, you're supposed to carry your pendulum in like your bra for like a week or two.
I've heard of that.
Right? So every
That's
day
interesting.
you wake up in the morning, or just, I mean, depends if you wear a bra at night or not. You know? Usually people just put it under their pillow at night, and then in the morning you stuff it in your bra. And there was this really great meme of Lizzo about that. Did you see that?
Is it the one where she has a bunch of crystals in her bra?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one. I'm a girl. I'm going to start doing that, okay?
It was so funny. So anyway, that's a way to connect with it. Another is that you work with it daily. The pendulum is strung up on a piece of chain, right? Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
It's not a closed circular chain, like you can't wear it around your neck. It's just on a chain. And on the other end of the pendulum, there's like a small crystal or whatever it's made out of, right? And then you're supposed to dangle the pendulum over your right hand, right? And then let it come to stop, like where it's not moving at all. And then you put your other hand underneath the crystal, right? And then now it's receiving energy from both of your hands, right? So your energy.
Right,
and then you need to focus your attention and your intention, most importantly. And then you ask the pendulum, show me yes. Because this type of divination really only works, or majorly works, for yes and no questions.
Correct.
Right? So if you have a client that has a very basic yes or no question,
like,
instead
am
of doing
I going to get married
spread,
this year?
right,
or whatever.
you would just pull out the pendulum. Or if you yourself have a yes or no question, like, should I go eat at whatever, right? Yes or no. And so to find clear yes or no's, you have to know what your pendulum looks like when it's saying no, and what your pendulum looks like when it's saying yes.
Okay.
So for me, the one that I purchased, whenever I, string it over my hand and then put my hand underneath, I'll tell it, okay, show me yes. And the pendulum starts to move. Now you yourself have to be super still, right? You don't want to move the pendulum. You want to make sure that it's moving on its own.
Now, can you put your hand that's holding the crystal on a surface to kind of stabilize yourself?
I do.
Okay, that would probably be easier, right?
I do, because I don't want to interfere. I don't want it to be me that's moving it.
No, and I have shaky hands.
And I do too. So I stabilize myself as best as I can.
That makes sense. Okay, so then you're stable.
I'll say, show me yes. And then the pendulum will do its thing. So it'll either start spinning counterclockwise, it'll start spinning clockwise, it'll start moving right to left or up and down. It just depends on what that particular pendulum's version of yes is. And once it gives you your yes, you notate, okay, well, for yes, it's going to move left to right.
Okay.
Left to right, left to right.
Okay.
So then once again, I thank it for showing me yes, because you always want to work in gratitude, right?
Right.
And then you put the pendulum again, you stop it, make it as still as possible. And then once it's still, you ask, show me no. And the pendulum will show you no.
Yeah, and it's used so different.
And it's going to do something different than what it did with yes. So, for example, it might just start to spin clockwise or counterclockwise or up and down or left and right. Usually it's very different from your yes.
It's a distinct,
noticeable difference, right? And so what I found super interesting is that one of the pendulums my brother gave me for Christmas, I feel more energy and more connected to that pendulum than the one I bought for myself.
Ooh.
And so when I did my clearing cleansing and then I did show me yes, show me no, it was very strong.
Oh my gosh.
Stronger than the one I bought.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. Like its yes was like swinging back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And its no was the other way. And it was like, I was like, whoa, this is some strong energy here.
Wow.
So, and then we'll do some yes or no questions and then post a video so you guys can kind of see how it works.
I'm excited for that.
But it's very, very interesting. And so there are these mats you can buy.
Oh, right.
And it's very similar to like a Ouija board, right? Because remember, Ouija boards are also divination tools.
They are.
And I don't think we mentioned it in the last episode.
No, I forgot to. I literally thought about that afterwards. I was like, shoot, I forgot the biggest one, the most popular one, right? Yeah. We'll definitely do an episode on that for sure.
Oh, yeah, we should do a whole episode on that. Now, I don't have any Ouija board experience. Do you?
I do.
I
Just
don't.
very brief. But yeah.
The Ouija board is a form of divination tool that I've just never been drawn to.
Okay.
And it really has a lot to do with like Hollywood
Of
and all
course.
these movies and all the negativity surround it. And I'm just like,
oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait for that episode. No, I can't wait. No, it's really interesting stuff. I almost want to do that episode next since we're in the topic of like divination.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. But so anyway, you're saying they include mats?
Yeah, so there's this mat that you can buy, and it has like yes, no, and then it has like letters in a circle and things like that. So you can ask more specific. And the way I understand it's supposed to work is you're supposed to put your pendulum in the middle and then ask it, and then whichever way it swings, it kind of gives you the answer that you're looking for.
That's
right?
Awesome.
But you don't need that. And honestly, you can maybe make your own mat. Just write a piece of paper.
For sure.
Write your yes or no on one side, and then you can create your own, right? Because again, like we said, it's all about the intention that you set. All these accessories or tools are out there, and they're great and wonderful. Like if you want something a little bit more professional looking, by all means. But is it 100% needed? No, you can make your own.
No. Yeah. So going back to what you said about how you were connecting to one of the pendulums that your brother gifted you for Christmas, was it the amethyst?
Yes.
Do you think it's because of the frequency of the amethyst? And maybe that's just one of the crystals that connects with you the most?
Possibly, because he gave me the amethyst and I was really like, wow, I've been wanting to buy an amethyst.
That's
crazy.
So
after that, no, I bought, so remember I told you I went to go buy crystals, right?
Yeah.
So that amethyst right there, I bought it before he gifted me that. Because he bought me these things for Christmas, but I haven't seen him.
Right.
So I just went to go pick them up. Like I just saw him the other day because I went to go drop my mom off, and I saw him. He was there, and he was like, "Hey, let me give you your Christmas gifts." Yeah. And I'm like, "Okay, great." So I had actually purchased the amethyst before.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
So I think that because I've been very drawn to the amethyst.
Yeah, it's a beautiful crystal. It has such a very unique frequency.
Right. I wonder if amethyst is my birth
Watch it actually be.
Birth gem.
It might be.
Let me look it up.
Look it up. That's interesting. So I definitely wanted to talk about the history of pendulums because I feel like a lot of people don't realize this is a tool for divination that has been used throughout history for many, many, many years. And while you're looking that up, because I definitely want to know if it connects, I'm going to give the people a little bit of history. So pendulums are commonly referred to as dowsers or as dowsing, and people have used them again for many years throughout history, not just for divination and spiritual purposes, but they are also known to be used for finding oil, water, mining gold or silver, and more recently I found out that it can be used to predict stocks and like the economy.
Hey, what we doing right now in the U.S.? Hey GameStop.
Hey GameStop. Hey AMC. Hey Dogecoin. If you don't know what that is, you guys, like look into all that. We've recently gotten into not to get too much into it. I feel like
you've been in it before this whole thing.
Yeah, well that's Abel. That's all Abel. He's all into that. All I'm gonna say is, because I don't want to get into off topic, but all I'm gonna say is educate yourself, get your money, get your bag, and fuck Wall Street. No, I'm kidding. No, don't come for me, Wall Street. No, but for real though, like educate yourself, read. There's a lot of forums online that talk about stocks. There's a lot of groups on Facebook. There's Reddit. There's TikTok. There's a billion pages on Instagram that you can look into if you don't know about stocks. And I mean, if you really have like, some basic questions, reach out to me. I'll answer them. I'm not a pro. I'm not rich. Not yet.
You're not a financial advisor.
No, I'm not a financial.
At your own risk.
I'm not an accountant. I'm not a broker. But I can kind of help guide you because I know what it's like in the beginning to feel a little lost and overwhelmed with it. But yeah, like I said, get your bag. So anyway.
That's right, girl. Get your money. And to that, I feel like I need to put a disclaimer here for like the people of my age group. And so to kind of help them to see what this is all about. And so for those of you that don't know, the difference is that back in the day, in order for you to be able to trade stock, you had to go through some type of hedge fund or some type of commission-based broker to help you buy and sell. So whatever profits you made, you had to pay a percentage to the broker in order to be able to trade stock. The difference and what's happening now and the revolution that's happening is that we now have apps like Robinhood, Cash App, that are called non-commission brokers, right? So they help you they facilitate you being able to buy, sell, trade stock, and they don't require a commission, right?
There's no middleman.
Because of this, trading stock is super easy to do now because it's literally on your phone. Everybody has Cash App. And you can buy and sell and trade stock on Cash App now by clicking 2 or 3 buttons.
Wow, I didn't know that Cash App did it now.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. So that is what's happening, guys. So not because regular people, are now able to buy and trade stock in such an easy way is why we're now seeing all this upset and all these things happening where it's like screw Wall Street, blah, 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 because we can.
Yeah, because
these apps facilitate the ability to be able to make such a huge impact on the stock market without having to go through an actual broker. Because a broker is that middleman, right? So if they start to see fishy things, they're going to say, oh, hey, you can't do that. No. We're not going to do that for you. Right. So you couldn't, before these type of apps came out, you weren't able to do these type of things because you would have a middleman saying, no, that's not allowed.
So only the richer could get rich.
Correct. Because it
the
wasn't
rich could get
beneficial for brokers and hedge funds, right? Yeah. And so now we're seeing that by eliminating them and not needing their permission or their access, we can now do things like what we're seeing with like stock and game of shorting stocks and things like that.
It's amazing. Right? It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm excited. I saw this coming. I had a vision actually about this last year, but I thought it was BS. Like I was like, what the hell? This is not going to happen. Where more and more average or regular people like us could have the opportunity to invest and to trade stocks and to do these things that, you only see in Hollywood movies that these rich men could do. Now It's like, I know a bunch of women around my age group, early 20s, that are investing and trading stocks. And it's amazing. It's exciting because like, holy shit, like we have a little bit of power in our hands. Like let's do great things with it. Because like I tell my friends when I try to convince them to trade, right? I'm like, girls, like you have to realize the men and women, of course, but mostly the men in power that have money, that, are in control. They're knowledgeable. We have to educate ourselves. If we want to change things, we need money. Like that's the reality. It's good to be all spiritual and all about positivity and stuff. But reality is, if we want to change the world, if we want to make it a better place, we also need to have that power and that control and that money. One way you can do that is by educating yourself, right? So going back to pendulums though.
So, with just kind of backdoor what you just said is super important because that was the thing that was stopping everybody, right? Is there's this misconception that if you're not a wealthier white person, you don't have any business trading stock. Like that's not in your wheelhouse. That's not in your lane, right? Yeah. And so instead of making it super, what's the word I'm looking for? Instead of making it easy for the general public to do, they always kind of hoarded it, right? So you have to go through a broker, and brokers will only work with you if you have a certain amount of money or whatever, all these misconceptions and misnotions. And they were ones that I had, right? And then a lot of it has to do with what happened in 2008 with the market crash, economy, right? So people of my age and my generation, we were teens at that time. And we saw our parents go from losing a lot or all of their life savings in everything. A day or two, and so that was super devastating for our parents, for our families. For some people went from being, what do they call it? Upper middle class to lower middle class or to poverty. A lot of people lost their homes. I mean, a lot of people lost their homes, right? Because we had the bubble and all of that stuff. So these quote unquote kids, these 20-somethings that are now doing these are all kids that saw that.
We did.
And they were like, what the heck, right?
We don't want that shit to happen again.
Exactly.
We're scared of it.
Exactly.
So scared of that.
So now they're like, okay, well, fuck Big Wall Street, because guess what? You guys screwed over our parents, screwed over our family, you changed our lives. And so it's karmatic in that way where it's like, now we're coming back. And so now the falsehood of you have to be a certain type of person to be able to buy and sell and trade stock is gone.
It is.
That falsehood, that veil, that myth that kept people out of Wall Street, regular people, everyday people, women, men, minorities is gone.
Right.
And so that's the big, that's the whole point, the big thing where it's like, that's the shift. So to see what's going to come from this going forward, because now there's an interest. Now people are like, oh, I could do this myself. Oh, I don't need to go through a middleman, a broker, or whatever you want to call them. Like, I can buy and trade myself. And that's going to be a huge impact in the years to come. Like,
I am so excited. I'm excited for our people.
Yes.
Specifically, I'm excited for all minorities. I'm excited for women, Latinas like us.
Yes.
Because this is a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really is.
Absolutely. We're seeing history. Regardless of whether you lose or win money with the GameStop stock or the AMC stock, like the point is everything you knew about stock markets and trading, it's all falling apart.
It's all
that illusion that all these hedge fund companies and all these corporations and all these politics created to make it like an exclusive thing, an exclusive club for only for certain people, that is gone.
And they're pissed.
And that's why they don't like it.
They're so
because
pissed.
now they don't have control over it the way they did before. Because that's the whole thing. That was the whole point of having all those false walls up, right? Is if we make people think that this is only for certain kind of people or a certain kind of education or a certain kind of valuable in person or value in person, then we can better control the stock market to benefit us, the hedge funds, the people, the middle people, right? We know what we're doing. They don't know what they're doing. So I can because when you start to trade, they'll make you sign all these documents like, oh, you could lose your money. This is a risk.
They make
blah,
it
blah,
real
blah, blah.
scary.
And then they go, basically you're giving them your money and saying, here, make me more money if you can. So you're putting it on them. And yes, the incentive is if you make more money, they make more money.
Of course.
Right? But if you're a small business owner, you're only trading like $2,000-$3,000. Like, do they really have a vested interest in helping you grow your stock versus another person that comes in and they're trading $100,000?
Yeah, millions of dollars.
Come on.
Yeah, no. They're going to leave you on the back burner.
They're not going to pay as much attention. They're not going to be as careful. They're not. And so it's those people that are trading small that are probably going to lose all their money.
Unfortunately, that is the case.
And it is those small contributions that keep these companies afloat, because that's what we've seen. When you get millions of people that are buying 1 or 2, 3, 4 stocks, it makes a difference. It makes an impact.
Well, exactly, like the GameStop thing.
Exactly.
It was worthless. I literally saw that stock and I was going to buy it like a couple months ago and I was like, fuck GameStop. That shit ain't going to work out, Pero then Reddit got together. The people started educating each other. They came together. We all united and worked. And I didn't invest in GameStop or AMC, but it makes me so happy knowing that there's people that did, and now they're a little bit better off, Right. Even if it's just a couple $100 or a couple thousand or however much, it helped. And it proved a point that we can do it.
That we can make a difference. That we can make a huge impact. Because, okay, if you look at the GameStop stock, for example, right? And you look at it from a buyer's perspective, okay, well, GameStop, all it is Blockbuster of video games.
Right.
Okay. Does it really have a future? Probably not. Because now you can... I'm sure the Netflix version of gaming is already out there. You can stream these type of games or whatever, or if they start building that platform where you can just download games, for a fee, then that's going to eliminate the need for GameStop, just like Netflix eliminated the need for Blockbuster, right? All these streaming platforms, right? So in a sense, does it make sense to buy GameStop because you're going to... Probably not. No. But that wasn't the point.
The point was we could change
The point is, can we take a crappy stock like GameStop and do something with it enough to where we can make an impact? Right. And they proved that they can.
So they're trying to do the same thing with a stock called Dogecoin. And I don't think you can find it. No, actually, never mind. You can find it on Robinhood now. And it's a cryptocurrency stock. So... I'm not going to get into too much into that because it's so much, but look into it. I have to tell you about it later for sure. Yeah. So my brother told me about it. He's like, they're trying to do the same thing that they did with GameStop with this stock. Yeah. So it's really interesting. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how things play out in the next couple months.
Yeah. And it just goes back to the corruption that is, because there is corruption in trading. There's corruption in Wall Street.
100%.
The SEC plays a big part of that. They are not really here for the people. No. They are here for the hedge funds, you know, the big dollar, right? Because con dinero baila el perro.
That's true, girl.
You know what I mean? So in that, I saw, because I tried to buy that. I keep calling it dog coin, but it's not. It's Dodge coin, right?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. Doge coin, whatever you want to call it, whatever. Yeah. I tried to buy some and they wouldn't let me.
They didn't let me at first. Because here's another thing. Yes, these apps are great, but they're all about making their money. Mm-hmm. They don't give a shit about your money, okay? So they are going to put little restrictions and they're going to say it's for your own good. Oh, we don't want you to buy this stock right now because it's too risky.
Right.
Volatile. No shit, it's too risky. Hello. That's why I'm doing it. Yeah. Like, there is a risk in anything you do in life. I'm taking that risk because I want to. Don't tell me that I can't do it because you don't want me to make money.
Don't restrict me, bro.
Exactly. Girl, I was like, oh, hell no. So what I did when it was blocking me, I sent my brother a couple dollars for him to invest with his account because he was allowed to invest. So I did that. And I was like, man, fuck, they're really trying to play me.
Yeah. And it's not. So then now we're in this whole, the legality of it is like, can they do that?
Yeah.
Can they restrict the buying of stock? Like, how?
They can't. Right. Technically, they can't, but they don't care losing a couple hundred or thousand or millions of dollars in lawsuits than like the big picture of how much money they would be losing altogether with all these people selling their stocks at a certain price. Right.
And then the big thing that I saw that I was reading is that, well, especially with Robinhood, the issue is they didn't have enough financial backing for all this. They weren't ready. They didn't see it coming. They didn't see it coming.
Yeah, but that's
which sucks. I don't know how. If that's your business, you should have your ear to the street in multiple ways.
No, you do. Know? It's a financial app. How do you not have that? Is all baloney.
That's what they're saying. That's the email I got, and I was like, okay, sounds good.
No, use your intuition when it comes to this. And going back to the pendulum and how it ties into this, there's a guy, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name right now, but I'll post it later on the Instagram. He actually is one of the people who uses pendulums and dowsing to predict the stocks, like I was saying earlier. And he is very accurate in his intuition towards, reading if a stock is going to be successful or not. And he's made a lot of money doing that. Wow, and teaching people how to do that. Yeah. So it is something that you can do and use not only for spiritual or divination purposes, like I said, but also to help you out a little bit financially if you need. Always, of course, doing it with the greatest intent. Right. Right. So, yeah. Should we talk a little bit about the history? I know we went off to like a whole other topic, but it's still very important for us to discuss.
It's all about current events. We want to talk about current events, right?
It's important. It's important. And I'm sure it'll surprise our listeners that we kind of like went off to but I'm sure they'll find it interesting, hopefully.
It's what's happening. And it's also a good form of explaining how you can apply these divination tools to real world scenarios, right? So you can use a pendulum to try to help you figure out which stock or whatever you want to do, and then in that you're also using your intuition. So
of course,
that's what these tools are made for.
Of course.
And now that you brought up dowsing, that's also another good topic to talk about because it kind of ties into what we're talking about now. Is when people would use dowsing rods to predict where there was water, or more importantly, where there was oil.
Right.
And this is something that we see a lot in history, especially in the 40s, 50s. Like that was a very big practice, especially here in Texas, was to use dowsing rods to be able to say, okay, well, you need to dig here for water for a well, for your ranch, for your land, whatever. And then dig here because there's oil here. And these people, and there are still people right now in modern times that these oil companies hire
to do that
for
them.
Big bucks to help find pockets of oil.
Right.
And they use dowsing rods to do that. And that's super interesting to me because it's used now in corporate life, in big,
How crazy is that?
So, and these people make buku money, and they use, and that's all there is. They're using a divination tool, their dowsing rods, and then their own intuition. And these are things that are passed down generationally. These teachings, these type of, and people then use and then say, okay, well, there's oil here, dig here. And then if they're right, they get paid.
Damn. It's pretty fascinating
stuff. And we're talking thousands of dollars.
A lot. You know. No, because they're gonna make big bucks digging all that oil out, so they're gonna have to pay that person.
So that's another form of divination.
Yes, it's really neat. Yeah. Actually, this goes way back to like the 1300s BC.
Yep.
In the Old Testament, a rod was used by Moses and Aaron to find water in the desert, along with Egyptian hieroglyphs describing a magician's wand or rod. And it was believed to have, like, these dowsing rods were believed to have some sort of magical power to help guide people to the right place in order to find water or oil, like you said. And actually, Cleopatra, she also used the dowsers. And it was really cool because in their time, they were using it more so to find gold, because it had obviously gold is really important in our society today, but back then they used it a lot as well with everything, and that was more in the 47 BC. So it's been used for a long time. And then we go down to like the 1400s, the 1800 AD, where the Spanish Inquisition was going on. We talked about that in the last episode a little bit when we discussed the 𝚑𝚘𝚘𝚘. The whole pendulum dowsing thing really started to play a big part in society because more and more people knew about it. More people were discovering this and getting their hands on this. So during this time, they were like, oh no, we need to stop letting people do this. This is giving them too much control, too much power, and especially women, of course, during this time. So they were like, no, any use of divination tools, or if you have psychic abilities, or if you have healing abilities, or any kind of that stuff,
any kind of brujeria,
any type of brujeria, any of that kind of stuff is a big no. And if you keep doing it, we're gonna hang you, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna whatever, right? And they did. And so during these years, again, from the 1400s to the 1800 AD, about like 9 million people were burned, hung, killed during these years. Yeah. Because of that.
Because of the man that I told you that wrote that book.
Oh, yes. That crazy mofo.
This is during this time, and he was Spanish. So, yeah. And remember, Spain was super Catholic, Catholic, more Catholic than any of the other countries. Right. It was like, I don't know, like they just, they grab hold of it. And then, thing. So showing the rise of Catholicism, of course, they had to etch all this extra stuff out in order for religion to kind of take hold and go be the superpower at the time, right? And it benefited the Spanish monarchy big time because they had favor with the Pope at the time, which was more powerful than any king and queen or any monarchy in Europe at the time. Yeah. Because if you wanted to do anything, even as a monarch, you had to get the Pope's approval, permission, because he was as close to godliness as you can get, right? Craziness.
I hate that shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I
hate it.
Preaching to the choir.
Like, I really hate that. To add to that, I just don't believe, and this is my opinion, but I don't believe that God only allows certain people to connect with him or that source energy, right? We all have that. We all have that cord, no matter who you are, to connect to the heavens, to connect to God, to connect to Allah, to connect to whatever you refer it to, right?
Correct.
So to believe that, like, oh, this one guy was pointed to like be the only one who can really connect to source, I think is baloney. I don't think it's true.
It's so interesting we touched this topic because I did have this thought the other day. I was thinking about the Catholic religion and religions. Is the day the Catholic religion strips themselves of all their prized possessions, of all their money, is a day that I'll take them seriously, because they are actively on a daily basis living in the, what do they call it, the deadly sin of greed.
It's so true.
The Catholic Church has so much freaking money. It's obscene.
And they don't pay taxes. Well, no religion, right? They don't pay taxes on any of it, right?
Of course not. Yeah. The Vatican City is a city that's a country inside of Italy.
How crazy. Right? That's how much power.
Their worth, the Vatican City value is, they have more money than countries 10, 20, 30 times their size.
They have old money.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's obscene. I don't think that we could ever really count how much they have.
And you know what's...
And this is a religion that's supposed to be for the poor and for this people. And for that. And they're supposed to live in, humility and poverty. And there was something I read a couple years ago of this one archbishop or cardinal. I don't know the hierarchy, but he was living so lavishly, so wealthy, so like he had gold shoes, like shit like that just like he was living like a freaking Instagram influencer.
No,
you know what I mean? Like private jets everywhere, vacations. He had houseboys, you know, like things that were so obscene that the Catholic Church could no longer ignore how he was living. And they had to strip him of all his stuff because he was calling too much attention to them and their level of wealth. So how can you be a religion but be living in the deadly sin of greed 24/7?
It's just crazy. And then what's even more insane to me is that with them having so much money, so much power, so much control, they can easily sell off a couple gold coins or whatever things that they have in their possession to help people that actually are in need, instead of asking them for more and more money, more and more money.
Like all these countries in famine, all these towns, cities, places where children are dying of hunger, and they're doing, like, if the Catholic Church
really gave a damn,
stood by what they stand for, what they claim to stand for, and just broke off a little bit of,
not even the whole thing. We're not asking you to
because it's obscene how much.
It's just a little bit.
They could better so many places, right? Now, am I saying that they could, you know, heal the whole world? And probably not. But
it's something.
They could make big impacts, big differences in places, and they don't do it. No. They're not. Like, a great example, and to show y'all, I'm not just talking out of my neck. I'm not talking just from my frustration with the Catholic Church or my dislike of them, is when Notre Dame burned down.
Oh,
okay. Gosh. Notre Dame burned down. That's super historical place.
Yeah.
You know, they were really upset about it. Okay, great. They had more than enough money to rebuild. But what did they do?
They asked for more. Can you believe that shit? I was like, girl, and then there was actually people donating.
𝚂𝚒𝚘𝚖𝚖𝚎𝚗𝚝 husband donated millions, like some crazy number.
I think it's just for the tax write-off.
Because he's
he's
French,
super Catholic.
I think he's French, right? And
I have no clue.
Super Catholic.
Oh, yes, I know.
It was so much to the point where I read something where she was even like, there's starving children in other places where this money could have gone.
Holy shit! I agree with that. I agree.
And that's so her, you know. But he pretty much like donated what they needed to fix it on his own, right? Because that's his religion. That's his, which is fine, but the Catholic Church didn't need that.
No, that's not. Ay, Dios. Just if there was more transparency, that's all we're asking for. Like, just be real. Like, hello, the truth is out there. It's clear. It's obvious to anybody who pays attention. So just own up to it, and okay, bada boom, bada bing. Like, we got, like, move forward, okay? Like, that's it. But don't BS it, and don't lie, and don't say, like, oh, we're not doing that. Oh, we don't do this over here. Oh, that's not us.
We're pious.
Like, fuck you. Like, no, if you're an honest person, like, I don't know, just, it's a whole thing.
You know, I could tie, and I hate to sound like this, right? But fuck it, it is what it is. You could tie all the issues that we have in our current world and current status to the rise of Catholicism, the rise of Christianity.
Unfortunately, yes.
Because what religion did was come in and divide and conquer. That's what it did.
Yes.
It created division, so that it could then conquer. And so that whole concept of the divide and conquer is
that's
their
where it came
number
from.
one playbook. And that's exactly what they did and what they're continuing to do even to this day. Yeah. Now, I do have to give credit where credit is due, right? And I don't know if it's really credit, but I'm going to just make a notation, right? The other day I read an article that talked about how the Catholic Church, the Pope, is now saying that we should love our LGBT community.
Oh, like, I heard about
almost
this.
Kind of like opening the door to say, we're no longer going to shun you guys from our religion because of your LGBT whatever beliefs, right? Or not beliefs, but lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
y'all just doing that to fit in. Y'all just doing it to be petty. Like
we're in 2020.
Yeah.
Now's
the time.
You know, because guess what? Everyone else is accepting. So
if they're not, exactly. If they're not doing it,
So are you doing it because that's how you really feel? That's what your heart is telling you?
No.
Or are you doing it to keep up with times?
They're doing it to keep up with
your
times.
image, your brand.
Because they realize that they're losing followers, and then therefore they're losing money. They're losing donations.
Right.
And that's what they're all about.
Right. So because especially in 2020, here we are, we're seeing this rise of like this quote unquote new age spirituality. Right. People are looking to other things because in this year that they did not feel fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, oh shit, we gotta market PR.
That's nuts, man.
So anyways, I digressed a lot, but whatever.
No, I mean, look, you have a point, and it's not all bad in anything. I mean, there's good, there's bad, right? There are some things that Christianity or Catholicism, they, that I can, like, I get it. I vibe with it. But the main message, it's about control. It's about power. Mm-hmm. And it's like that with many old school religions, right? So you just I mean,
and then I hate to say this and to get into the political realm of things, but because of how Christianity has been positioned itself over the decades, over the centuries, it's why people can now use it to manipulate politics. And that's exactly what we saw these last 4 years, is a person took Christianity and the fear mongering that comes with religion and used it to his benefit for his agenda. Yeah. And do I believe Trump to be a Christian? No, absolutely not.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form would I look at that man and call him religious or call him pious or call him a Christian. There's no freaking way. But he used the agenda to divide and conquer. Yeah. And that's what he did. Yeah. And that's why we saw so much turmoil, so much division, so much anger, so much fear, so much hate during the 4 years of his presidency, because that was his playbook. He took the tools that had been up until now and used them to his advantage. And in the next 4 years, we're going to see the ramifications of all that. All this stuff that he did during his presidency is going to come to light, because it always does. Yeah. And remember me when I say, we're going to hear about it. We're going to see it. And the big thing, the moment that I saw that this was happening, that decision was made, is all these kids that have gone missing at the border.
Oh my God, dude.
And it's this thing of like, we're fighting the pedophile, child sacrificing Democrats. We're fighting this fight over here, which is what this whole Capitol riot thing was about, right? To deter from what he's doing over here. Where did all those kids go? Thousands of kids are missing. Not just like they're missing from the system. Where are they? How do we lose them? That's going to be the big thing. And y'all quote me, whatever you want to do. Remember this that I'm saying. We're going to see it. We're going to figure it out. And then we're really going to understand what that whole 4 years was about.
Holy shit, man. Well, it's so sad. The whole thing with the kids. It's heartbreaking to me, especially, for the both of us coming from Mexico, being, children of immigrant parents, first gen, like, when all of that was going on and the news was kind of like giving it light, it was so heartbreaking for Abel and I, because we were like, dude, like, I remember coming to this country and not knowing English at all. Yeah. And now at that age, like, I remember there was some kids on the TV, and I was like, damn, they look so young, like 5, 6, 7. I wouldn't have known my parents' full name. I should have known my parents' full name, but I don't fucking know their name. Like, I know them as mom and dad. Like, so if somebody had put me in a cage without air conditioning, without, or actually no, because they had it like really cold in there, without blankets, right? Like, just really horrible conditions. And then to add to that, like, you don't know where your parents are. You don't know the language. Like, it's just, it really touched me. And I was like, fuck, I wish I could do more. But I felt really helpless. Like, really helpless. So I really I pray that, like, we get all that figured out, because it's really heartbreaking.
That shit was awful. I mean, I saw image, like, there's videos out there you can pull up and see where they put these kids through court Like,
oh yeah,
these
they don't,
little
kids,
like 5, 2, 3,
and nobody's like really
and they don't have
representing.
parents because they've been separated from the parents, right? So they bring them into the court, they sit them down, the judge is asking them, do you understand? Do you see do you hear what I'm saying? Like, and they have a translator, but they're asking these minors to make legal decisions for themselves with no
representation,
or even understanding. Like, to ask a 5-year-old to understand legalities of the immigration system and what's happening, they have no, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, no. But they did. They did that.
So crazy.
And they came up with conclusions based on things that should never even been allowed. And that shit is like, it boggles the mind.
Like the fact that they allowed that shit.
It made me feel like, you know how they say, well, this is hell on earth. It felt like that.
Yeah.
Because that's bullshit. ¿En qué
It
cabeza caben esas chingaderas?
Exactly, girl. Exactly.
Like,
and then it's like the parents, yo. Like, imagine you get separated.
I can't imagine. I
Dude,
can't. If I start, I'll cry.
I know.
I'll cry.
I don't even have a kid, and I just put myself in the shoes of these parents who come to this country leaving violence. A lot of these people, you know, they have no other place to go. They come to this country hoping to get an opportunity to make a different, you know, have a different life for their child, you know, and they get separated from their kids, and then they try to get back with their kids and stuff, but the system makes it so difficult for them to do that. Like, I know there's still parents out there that are like, where the fuck is my kid?
Yeah, they're missing.
Like, they're still missing.
They're gone.
And unfortunately, I hate saying this, but I feel like they're not going to see them. Like, a lot of these children are, like, they're gone. Yeah. And God knows where they're at, you know? And that's so for me,
sad. when I think about it, I think about me and Jet.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and
holy
the
shit,
thing that people say, oh, well, why do they leave their countries? Like, people that are American like that are not first generation or understand the immigration or come from immigration or whatever. They have this mentality in their head of like these people are just coming over here because they want to, because America's so great and wonderful and we're so much better.
That's bullshit, girl.
And what they don't realize is, think about what it would take for you to leave your country,
your family, your traditions,
your home,
everything you know,
and walk through countries to come and get to another country. Yeah. What would it take for that to be your decision as an adult?
It would take a lot. You would literally have to be threatening something had to be threatening your life so bad that you literally made that decision for you to leave your own home
and to walk.
Yeah.
That's we're walking through all these different countries, and that in itself is a risk. I don't know if these people think that they're coming in on these vehicles and they're being given rides. There's no plane, Uber for immigrating. You know what I mean? Like, so it's the journey alone, you could die, you can get kidnapped, you can get killed, and you're coming through all these countries that are not the U.S., that have corruption, that have all these things, you know, and like. I saw a report today that a dozen Mexican police officers have been arrested because they found like 20 Guatemalans dead at the border. And so what's going to come from that is that allegedly these officers have massacred these mass number of people because the U.S. isn't letting them in and Mexico doesn't want them. So what do? They killed them all. That
breaks my heart. That literally breaks my heart.
And so it goes back to this, like, think about how fucked up things have to be in their country, in our country, in your country, for you to say the best thing for me to do, for me and mine, is to leave everything behind and take this super treacherous, super dangerous journey in hope that somebody will give us the opportunity, like you said, to do something and make something with ourselves, right? Yeah. It's not this whole, I want to come to the U.S. just because I want to live fancy.
Or to get on, social, what is it, financial help, y no tener que trabajar.
No.
Like, that's not always the case.
They just want to live.
Yeah. They just literally want an opportunity. And now, you know, let me clarify, that's not always the case. Yes, there are some bad people that are coming to this country to do bad things, of course. But there's also people that have good intent for their families, for themselves. I mean, I know a lot of people around my age who came from other countries and they're here because they want to get an education because their country doesn't allow them to do that. They don't have a good education system. No.
It's broken.
Yeah.
And all these countries, that's the problem, is they have so much corruption in their own government. Their government is run by mobsters or by, you know, people that they are using the country and their resources to expand their drug empire, because that's what a lot of this whole thing in Venezuela is about. And so people don't realize the history and the ramification of how these countries are where they are today because of the things that the United States did to aid these countries and their corruption in the 70s and 80s, especially during the Reagan administration. And that's what people fail to realize. We have a direct responsibility because we did this to these countries.
We caused it.
We caused this. And now we're seeing this and we're like, oh, no, that doesn't have anything to do with us. We don't have any responsibility there. Bye, Felicia. No, that's not the way it works. And it's crazy.
It's just mind-boggling, girl. Mind-boggling. And I don't know. I just wish there was more we could do. But I know it's out of our control. Like, you really have to be in power to be able to change things like that. Now, that's not to say being spiritual can aid in that. Like, maybe, meditating and putting it out there, to help those kind of people. And that's like kind of like praying about it. Or manifesting or I don't know, envisioning things to change for the better. Maybe that can make an impact. I don't know. Maybe we all come together and do that.
And I personally feel like in my future there's some type of political work.
Oh, dude, yes. I feel it.
And I'm
for
not
you.
talking about I'm talking about 20 years from now, 30 years from now.
It's coming.
In my
and your senora
I've been feeling
years.
called to it for a minute, but
that'd be cool.
So I shouldn't be cussing and stuff on these recordings that people can then go back and use against me. Oh, look, she's a witch,
blah blah blah.
She talks all this shit about religion. Don't vote for her.
Nombre,
Fuck it.
You're transparent. What do you want? I mean, don't you want a transparent person that keeps it real and stops you sugarcoating everything? I mean, I want that, right? So I don't know. Fuck it. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to the next 20 years.
Right.
All right. Moment of gratitude, because
I know we're way in. But so yeah, moment of gratitude. What are you grateful for this week?
This week I am thankful for. So I rekindled my relationship with my mom.
Nice.
And that's something that I know I haven't really expressed a lot about on the podcast. My mom and I have been estranged for about a year.
Yeah.
And here recently we kind of started talking and kind of not working on our relationship because that's not a Hispanic thing.
Hell no.
My mom is not about that life.
No.
My family is very much like, we stop talking and then one day we all just start talking again. Nobody apologizes. Happened. Nobody talks about it. Nobody nothing. And I think that's a very Hispanic thing.
It's so Hispanic.
And I think y'all feel me on that.
We do.
And so we're in that right now. And it's like, I'm thankful for it. But at the same time, I feel very cautious about it because we've done this dance before. It's not the first time, not the second time.
You know how that works.
Not even the third time. But this time is different for me because I've grown spiritually. My emotional intelligence has grown as well. And so I have better tools to deal with what this pattern is like. And it's not that I don't want to break the cycle and break the pattern, because I do, but it takes two people to work on a relationship. And if the other person's not willing to even acknowledge that there's an issue or their role in the issue, it's never going to work.
No.
Right. So I am thankful that my spirituality, my spiritual practices have helped me to cope and deal and to kind of get where we are today. And I hope that this go around is more positive, is better. At least from my perspective, that's my hope, that's my goal. And that's what I'm grateful for this week, is opening that line of communication again with her and seeing where it goes, seeing where it leads us. Because there's a lot of generational trauma. There's a lot of childhood trauma. There's a lot of things that I don't really, talk about and that I've tried to address with her. And it's this whole thing of, eso no pasó. Eso no es cierto. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You have Hispanic parents, I know. Mentirosa.
Eres dramática. That's cool, dude. I'm glad that y'all are kind of starting to open things up again.
Yeah,
because I feel you.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So I'm
glad.
You? So this week, I am grateful for the fact that I got to spend time with my little sister-in-law and my father-in-law on Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they came over and we went out to eat and we went to Galveston and just kind of sat down and meditated and reflected by the shore. So it was really, really relaxing. I'm also grateful for the validation that I've been receiving from my angels. Because, Lord, it's been crazy. And I know I told you a little bit about that before we got started, but to share it with the listeners. So on Saturday, I worked here in the salon. I had some clients, but before I came over to the salon, I stopped by my mom's, picked up my brother, because he wanted to come up here and spend some time with my father. On the way here, or on the way to my dad's, we talked, and my brother, he's I wouldn't call him spiritual, but he's aware that there are other things out there. He gets a lot of synchronicities, a lot of subtle signs that he's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe there's something to it, and maybe the angels do exist, right? So on our drive to my dad's, we started talking about signs and synchronicities, and he tells me, it's crazy. He was like, I've been seeing 111 and 444 a lot lately. And I'm like, dude, 444 is my freaking angel number. And I was like, I can't explain it. It's just a number that when I think about it, it makes me feel very connected to my angels. And he was like, oh my God. He starts telling me that he sees it everywhere and he's been seeing it like, so he goes and watches basketball games for his high school and whatever. And he says that when there's a foul, like the clock will stop, right? And he says literally 9 times out of 10 when he's visiting a basketball game, it'll stop and it's 444 or 404.
Wow.
Yeah, so very specific things. And he sees it on license plates and he sees it, everywhere, right? Well, the next day, you guys are not going to believe me. The next day, we're on our way to go out to eat with my little sister-in-law. And she's about like 14, almost 15 years old. She's also very into metaphysical stuff, very spiritual, all into it, right? And she tells me randomly, Caro, I've been seeing 111 and 444 a lot lately. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, oh, hell no, dude. And I know there's no way that she could have known that because they don't talk. Her and my brother do not talk. They don't have each other on social media. And my brother's very hush-hush about that kind of stuff. So there's no way that she could have known that. And right. I'm just laughing my butt off. And she's like, what? She's like, what's going on? And I tell her, and I'm like, look, my brother just told me the same thing yesterday. And she was, yeah, right? It was crazy, dude. And she was like, what? And I'm like, dude, let me tell you something. I was like, 444 is a number that I associate with my angels. She's like, dude, it's crazy. I've been seeing that number. And she goes, I've also been seeing, 911, all these other numbers, right? And then she's telling me that, and we walk into the restaurant that we're going to eat at. And this guy is standing there, and he hands us this little flyer. And we're all like, okay, what the fuck? And we didn't read it until we sat down. And I didn't really look at it too long because I never really when someone hands you something, you kind of just throw it away. Yeah, I don't want to be rude, but it's like, no le ponemos mucha atención, right? But I am so glad that I paid attention to this one because it was perfect freaking timing. So the little page, the little flyer that this guy handed us is like it's to promote like a Christian radio. Right, Christian radio. But on the front of this flyer, it says, call on to me, and I will answer you, and I will tell you great and mighty things of which you do not know. And this is Jeremiah 33:3. So what the hell? And I know it's not a 44, I know it's not a 111, but that was a perfect sign. Like, hey, we're here. We're listening. We know what you're doing. Keep it up. You're going down the right path. Right. Ooh, and it was just like, holy cow, I cannot believe this. It's just,
so for you, this is very significant because you have been doing a lot of angel work lately, right?
Abel and
so explain to the listeners a little bit about what that means.
So Abel and I are currently diving into something called the Shem Operation. And it's essentially a kind of ritual that has been practice going back from the 1400s. There is a priest, and I don't remember his name right now, but there is a priest that started this ritual to help people connect more directly with angelic beings. And there's a whole structure, and this ritual is originally very elaborate and very lengthy, but Damien Eccles came out with a book about this, and he kind of simplified it a little bit more. So Abel and I are currently working on that, on connecting with our angels, on spiritual sustenance, on just really trying to understand that world. So it resonated because I've been asking for validation, and I've been asking for very external and significant signs that I couldn't be like, oh, that's just a coincidence.
Right.
Like we said earlier. It's like, okay, pasó una vez, está bueno.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fuck it. Well, could have been anything.
Right.
Pasó 2 veces. Oh, okay, well.
That's a coincidence.
Now, pasó 3 veces, 4 veces, 5 veces. It's like,
it's diferente.
It's different. It's like, okay, this is an external thing. These energies are intelligent enough to say, I know if I show myself or if I present validations in such a way, Carolina or Abel or whoever will pay attention and will understand and perceive these signs. And I did.
Wow.
And I did. So I'm grateful for that this week. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, okay, we're going down the right path. And you also had an experience. I know you're not super tuned in with the angelic beings or anything like that, but you shared with me earlier something that I feel like you should mention, or I don't know if you want to mention it or save it for later, but where you were hearing.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I know that you've been you guys have been on this angelic path, and so that's just like a subgenre of everything that we talk about, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people that specialize in working with angelic beings, angelic energy. You have your angelic tarot cards, oracle cards, things like that, right? And so that's very much a thing. And you had asked me if I had felt called to work with angel energies, and I'm like, no, to be honest, I invoke them every day when I ground and protect. I call forth my guardian angels, my angel army, my archangel. I am aware, I am grateful, I do communicate with them, but I'm not called to do it in the way that you guys have been, right? But lately, so I would say the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks or so, when I'm in the house and the house is quiet, which is not very often, let me tell you. There's rare. 2 or 3 TVs going on at the time. Phones are going off. All kinds of stuff,
running around.
But there's been a couple times already where when the house is quiet, when things are still, the baby's asleep, I hear this like music, and it sounds really far away. Like it's not playing in my head. I'm listening to it with my ears. But well, duh, how else do you listen? But I'm listening to it, and what it sounds to me like is it sounds like maybe someone is playing music like next door, in another house, and I can barely hear it, but I can hear it enough to where I can make a tune. I can make the distinction. And the only way that I can describe it is that it sounds like angelic music. And how do we know what angelic music sounds, right? Well, that's kind of based on like what we've seen in media, like whenever angels are portrayed, what kind of music score do they put to the movie or show, those things, right? Or when you go to church, right? When you again, the Catholic orchestra, whatever, like
their depictions, right?
Now, I meditate, right? Yeah. We meditate, whatever. If you've ever meditated, especially like if you go to YouTube and do a guided meditation, the music that you hear playing, what they call ethereal music, right, is very, frequency based, and it has this very like tempo and tune to it, and you can identify it very quickly that this is like meditation type music, right? And I listen to a lot of that. This does not sound like that. It sounds different.
It's unique.
It's yes, and it's not something that I can say that I've ever heard before.
Yeah.
So at first, the first time it happened, I thought to myself, you want to listen more intently. And the more I would listen and more I would focus, the louder it would get. But it still did sound very far away. So I went outside and I was like, maybe my neighbor's playing something. So let me go snoop. So I went and stood by the fence. And I didn't hear it anymore. So then I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Maybe just a fluke. A couple of days later, it happened again. And this time, there was like vocals not words, but you can tell that the music was being made by someone's voice and not an instrument. And then I was able to pick it up even better, where I was able to like sing along or hum along with the sounds. And then that was so significant that the next day, well, it wasn't even that. Like, G asked me something about something, and I can't remember what it was now, but it made me lead to telling him that I've been hearing this, right? And he looks at me and he goes, "Me too."
How
and
crazy!
I was like, "What do you mean, me too?"
Como?
He was like, "I know exactly what you're talking about." He goes, "I thought it was coming from the neighbors."
Holy cow!
And I'm like, and now I live in a house
Yeah.
in a subdivision,
Yeah.
so I don't share walls with anybody. I don't live in an apartment. So it would be quite a distance to hear from another neighbor's house, right? They have to be playing it pretty loud. And so he was like, "I thought so too." He was like, and I just didn't. I was like, "Oh, whatever." And I'm like, "But he's like, "It sounds very angelic."
Oh my!
And I was just like, "Oh my God!"
How
now,
crazy.
G is not one to like soothe my ego or stroke or say something just because I said it.
Just to agree with it.
Our relationship dynamic is very much like, I don't want to say it's competition, but it's kind of like, and so siempre me da la contra. Or he always plays devil's advocate, right? Where I'll say something and he'll be like, "Nah, da da da, whatever. It's probably this and that." So for him to say that is significant,
right?
I mean, he's telling the truth.
He's not BSing it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's what I found really interesting.
Do you what do you feel about it? What do you pick up on that intuitively? Why would this present itself?
The couple times that it's happened, when it's happening, I feel very calm. Aww. It's very relaxing, very
serene.
Calming. And this is why I get into it, and I start to quote unquote listen more intently, because it's very relaxing, it's very soothing. Yeah. It makes me feel nice, so I'm like, okay, so what I'm thinking maybe is this is Spirit's way of very slowly, incorporating me into picking up frequencies from other realms or dimensions or, whatever you want to call them, right? And it starts off by like, I'm hearing this music from a distance.
That's crazy. I love that. I love that so much. And I'm glad you're experiencing things like that. And I'm also glad that you share that with me because, well, in the audience, because it still ties into what Abel and I are experiencing. So in a way, I feel like it's also validation for us. Like, okay, keep going down this path. Right. Whatever it leads to, it's going to lead to something good, something that will help you or help others. And yeah, so I'll keep y'all updated on that. We're definitely going to do an episode later in this season on angelic entities, on archangels, and all of that. We're just waiting on that a little more because I want to be able to give you guys all of the information, all of the experience. I just want to be able to have more experience, like with it, to really comprehend it, and then do an episode on it because it's going to be. So
I think that'll be really interesting and really in depth because, angels have their own language, which is why all the names, sound very similar, and then it's that whole thing and very hard to pronounce. And, there's a whole subculture with it and the whole religion side of it that's like aside from Christianity, So, it's going to be very interesting.
It's so interesting. Oh, I can go on and on about it, but we'll save it for another episode.
Yeah, we'll save it for another episode.
Anyway, you guys. Oh, what's up?
And just real quick, because I don't want to leave without saying, so I looked up my birthstone.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
totally forgot
my birthstones are Pearl, Moonstone, and Alexandrite.
Ooh,
Amethyst is February.
And, okay, so Amethyst is February.
So, and you're what, March?
April.
You're diamond.
I know. Is that all it says? Yeah. Diamond? Yeah, diamond.
So, okay, let me tell y'all real quick because I know you're going to be like, oh, what am I? That's what I would do. So, January is red garnet, February amethyst, March aquamarine and bloodstone, April diamond, May emerald, June pearl, moonstone, alexandrite, ruby is July, August is peridot. I don't know. September is sapphire. October is opal and pink tourmaline. Opal is my favorite stone.
It's so beautiful, right?
I love opal.
It's really pretty.
Oh, that's such a gorgeous stone. I love it. November is yellow topaz, citrine.
citrine.
See, this is why we're waiting for the
episode,
the crystal episode, because we got to get our pronunciations right. We got to try to figure out how to move this Texas accent.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, December is turquoise, tanzanite, blue, zircon.
Oh, okay, no idea.
Yeah. So, anyways, those are the gems for the birth songs.
Ooh, all right,
guys.
We're gonna end it here.
Yes.
Y'all know what to do.
Yep.
We hope you have a blessed week.
And let us know about that live.
Oh, yeah. Please let us know if you'd be interested in that. And stay tuned for another episode. Bye.
Bye.